We next have DSD 916, Moreland Disability Access and Inclusion Action Plan 2016 to 2020. Councillor Gillies and Councillor Bolton. Councillor Gillies, do you wish to speak to it?
No, I think at this time of night,
Sure.
people have the agenda and
Yep.
I'm sure they've read it.
Councillor Bolton, do you wish to speak to it?
No, I won't. I'll just follow Councillor Gillies' lead in that.
I'd like to move a small amendment, if that was okay, which is to add a resolution that, an additional resolution that all meetings organised by council that involve participation by the public be held in disability accessible venues. And if I have a seconder, I'll speak to why I've brought this up as an amendment.
I can't
Yep, you can't second it, Councillor Lincoln-Thompson. I'll just speak to this briefly. This is something that's been discussed at our Disability Advisory Committee and spoken to officers since about it as well. It's just strengthening something that's already in the provision, but it is really stepping up our sort of baseline work at council in terms of accessibility, particularly for public meetings. We do know we have a lot of buildings in the municipality that council runs that aren't accessible, but we are working on improving the accessibility. And there are certain events that sometimes might fall through the gaps, but what this does is ensure that there's a broad policy across council that any event that we organise is in an accessible venue. So it just strengthens a provision that's already in the policy. Are there any questions or comments about the amendment? Is the amendment suitable to the mover and seconder?
I'll certainly second it. It's suitable
Yes,
for
okay,
me.
so it's then incorporated as part of the substantive item. Are there any further speakers
Can I just
for?
maybe make one
Certainly.
other point?
Yep.
In the action plan, it refers to training of council officers. I actually believe that councillors should also be trained in this area, like not each incoming crop of councillors, because I think disabilities are many varied, and I think a lot of people think of disabilities as people who are in wheelchairs or blind. But certainly it became apparent during the course of this council that people who had hearing disabilities had been overlooked for a number of years, and many of our council buildings were not accessible for people with hearing disabilities. And I think this this sort of training should apply to councillors as well as council officers, is my belief. But I've already seconded the motion, so I can't move an amendment now.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there any other speakers around this item? Perhaps I can just respond, if I may, just in terms, instead of an amendment, it's something, this is a working document, so I sit on the Disability Advisory Committee, and I also wanted to say that the Disability Advisory Committee spent quite a considerable amount of time, particularly at our last meeting, looking at this and reviewing the document. It is a live document. It is going to change. It is going to get enhanced as we go along, and what the committee does is check on it every, quite regularly in terms of how we're progressing with the actions, and it provides its advice to council. So I think there is provision to incorporate what you're talking about, Councillor Bolton, and what we can do is take it up at the next Disability Advisory Committee meeting as something that we talk about and perhaps include in the next iteration. So it's an organic document, is what I'm saying, so it won't be lost. Thank you for that point. Any further debate on this item? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. We've got next DSD 1016, support for immunisation in Moreland. Councillor Thompson?
I'd just like to move an alternative recommendation to what's presented on page 127.
Yes.
And
is it additional or alternative? Additional.
Well, I guess that's an additional point to
yes,
move the amendment. Yep. Can I? Or?
Certainly. So you're putting a motion on the table. So does that include the original resolution is council resolved to note this report?
Yeah, I'd just like to add another recommendation to that. So we note the report, and that council receive further information about the geographic areas that may have low immunisation rates and strategies to increase the immunisation levels.
Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor Gillies? Councillor Thompson, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, just quickly to comment on the report and thank the officers for bringing that to us, and noting that currently Moreland has 91.57% immunisation rates, and while that might seem high, it is recommended that in order to protect those most vulnerable, the infants and those who are compromised. It is noted that it should be up to 93%. So just really working towards increasing our immunisation levels, and noting also that there were outbreaks earlier this year and in December. So there are measles and chickenpox that are still out there, but we should be sort of.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Glees, do you wish to add anything further?
No, I'm very
Okay.
supportive of that.
We've got a question from the CEO regarding clarification about the... Yes, clarification.
So just through the Mayor, I just want to clarify, the intent is not then to generate a further council report, it's to distribute this information to councillors, and I guess I put it as a plea, I guess, mainly because we can't keep up with all the council reports
Yes.
being generated.
Okay, yes, yeah, further
Okay.
information.
And so we will do it by circulation or through dispatch.
Perfect.
Okay,
No,
great.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further debate on this item? Any further questions? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. We've next got DSD 1116, Draft Pavilion and Outdoor Sporting Infrastructure Contributions Policy. Is there a mover for a motion? Councillor Kavanagh. Is there a seconder? Councillor Yildiz, Bolton. Councillor Yildiz? Yep, Councillor Yildiz. Councillor Kavanagh, do you wish to speak
Just
to
to
it?
say, I think it's a very good policy. It equates the amount of investment from the club into the length of the lease. I think it's a good policy, and should be that.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Yildiz, do you wish to add anything further? Okay. Are there any further speakers to this item? No. In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. We've next got DD 3616, City Development Activity Report. Councillor Kavanagh.
I'd like to move the recommendation on page
Councillor
167.
Davidson is seconding it. Councillor Kavanagh, do you wish to speak to it?
Just 2 points. Number one, I noticed that the refusals in the quarter were 6% of refusals. The state average is 4%. So often I think people think that when decisions are made under delegation that they're never refused, but in fact that shows that in fact we're refusing 50% more applications than what is the state average. So I think that's a little bit reassuring for people. And the second thing is my continual bugbear about the fees and charges that are associated with planning applications being set by the state government. In the last quarter, council collected $307,047 in fees and charges, and yet the branch expenses, and they've operated very efficiently in that branch, but they still, the branch fees expenses were $1,146,295. In other words, the Moreland ratepayer has subsidised the development industry in the last quarter to the tune of $792,048. You do that over, you assume that's over 4 quarters. We're looking at, in the course of a year, the Moreland ratepayer subsidising development industry for $3.1 million. In fact, we could have the next stage of the Oxygen project and Molliston Hall and not tap into any of our funds. You know, it's wrong, terribly, terribly wrong. Not only are they subsidising the development industry, but usually for development that they do not want.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Davidson, do you wish to speak to this item?
Yes, I'll just add a few things from the
Councillor,
report.
please. Councillor
So,
Kavanagh.
in summary, the workload continues to rise and it's a steady increase. There were 428 planning applications decided in the March quarter, and despite the high number, it was still made within the legislative timeframe of 60 days. Building and planning enforcement activity remained high, and all attempts were being made to monitor it closely. There was a figure that did decrease slightly. In the March quarter, 78 subdivision permit applications were received compared to 111 in the previous quarter, which returns to more normal levels. It would be interesting to see if this continues to the pattern.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Is there any further debate? Councillor Thompson.
I'd just like to highlight something else from this report and commend the City Development team. Earlier this year, we were talking about Faulkner McBride Street, and in the report, it highlights what the officers have been doing since the dissolving of the task force. So through December, they've had 10 monitoring of the area in the morning and at night of the inspections. In January, they installed fixed cameras to just check if there are any breaches of parking along the area, and also that there has been a non-compliance still issued for units 3 to 7, and because that non-compliance still exists, they're now engaging lawyers to take it to VCAT about complying to the breaches. So there is still movement in the Faulkner McBride Street, even though the task force has been dissolved.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Is there any further comment on this report? Like, as I put it to the vote, all those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Move on to DD 3716, Outdoor Christmas Decorations Program, a review and proposed future program. Is there a mover for the report's recommendation?
I've got an amendment to make.
I want to move it deferral.
Moving procedural motion for a deferral. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of a deferral? All those against? Councillors, are you abstaining, Councillor Thompson? Abstaining? All those against the deferral? Okay, so declare the deferral lost. Councillor Davidson, you can put a motion. There's no motion on the table, so what if you want to put a motion, that will be the substantive motion on the table.
Substantive motion is what's written,
Yep.
just with a minor amendment that on point.
Councillor Davidson.
Sorry, point 3A states a mix of contemporary and traditional Christmas celebrations. So whenever there's the word contemporary, it's contemporary and traditional.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Is there a seconder to this motion? Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Davidson, do you wish to speak to it?
So just briefly, what's before council tonight is a motion to reduce the spread of decorations and slowly introduce a program that has some more versatility to also celebrate different celebrations from different cultures, which I'm very supportive of. There was some discussion in relation to having light shows with projectors, particularly for Christmas, but my concern is that this detracts from the visibility and the atmosphere that Christmas brings to a lot of children, a lot of families and many, many adults who walk down the street in our main activity centres every year. I don't think it's right to just have a light show, and I'm pleased to see that the recommendations have also included visible outdoor decorations, and that will continue. The reason for my amendment is that it's good to move into a more modern approach to things and to incorporate new ideas, but also to recognise where we come from and the traditions that have founded such a beautiful time of year. And I just want to be able to keep that spirit and also move on to more contemporary things as well.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Kavanagh, do you wish to add anything further? Okay. Are there any further comments about this item? Councillor Tan.
It's a great report. Unfortunately, it's not about outdoor Christmas decorations. I'm not sure if anyone's actually read this report because if you go to paragraph 4, option 1, gradually commence a transition to a wider celebration program throughout the year. Christmas is not throughout the year. Christmas is once a year. Celebrating Christmas, but also adding value to current festivals and events and providing a more inclusive program for Moreland's diverse community. Fantastic. It's a new policy, but it's not outdoor Christmas decorations. It should be separated. It should be its own policy. Moving down further, sell-off of surplus Christmas decoration stock will be investigated and implemented over time as appropriate. I'm sure everyone can read there. And then we go to the actual recommendation, point 3, Moreland Celebrations Program. So this is not the outdoor Christmas decorations program. This is now the Moreland Celebrations Program. Separate policy and a completely different idea. This is not about Christmas anymore. So we go to 3B, contemporary program linking, adding value to selected festivals and events, not Christmas. C, illumination light shows, projections, alternative at various locations throughout the year. Christmas is once a year. 4, develop a yearly project implementation plan as part of Moreland Celebrations Program, not Christmas decorations. And the list goes on. And then we go right down to implementation, point 7 of the report. It is proposed to develop a yearly project implementation plan, clearly identifying which festivals and events will be targeted each year, including illumination and or projections included with the current budget allocation. So we're basically killing Christmas or getting rid of our Christmas program and replacing it with a celebration program to run over a 12-month span. That's fine, but I don't understand why we're substituting one for the other. I think it was Councillor Kavanagh that said about moving money around. I would say that this is exactly what this report does. It kills the Christmas decoration program and replaces it with a celebration program, which I'm not against, but I just think that we should have both, and certainly not substitute one for the other. Unless we want to be known as the council who killed Christmas.
Thank you, Councillor Teddy. Is there any further comment on this report? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did you vote?
Sorry, I was looking for something for my throat, so I came back. I didn't.
I'm just going to recast that vote because I'm not quite sure whether Councillor Bolton voted. All those in favour of the report? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We're now moving to Councillor Bolton, are you? Councillor Bolton, can we get you some water?
There's water just near you. There's water. I need a cup of tea. I think I've been there.
So we'll just get a cup of tea for Councillor Bolton. We might move to DD 3816, Water for Victoria. Councillors,
I'll just move that we extend the
yes.
meeting by half
Can I have
an
a
hour?
motion that we extend the meeting by 30 minutes? Yes, seconded by Councillor Gillies. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Councillors, can I just remind you, I know it's getting late in the night, but the side chatter is really disruptive and disrespectful. So can you please keep the side chatter down, councillors? Thank you. We're now moving to DD 3816, Water for Victoria. Councillor Lenka Thompson wishes to move it. Is there a seconder for this report? Do you wish to read out the recommendation or as is?
That's fine.
Okay. Is there a seconder for this report?
It's a good one.
Councillor Hopper. It's a good one, she says. Councillor Thompson, you should speak to it.
Thank you. So I'd like to move the recommendations on page 207 and just note that this is council submission to the state government about, everybody's got a cough, don't they? About securing water for Victoria. So it's just looking at how we can be more resilient in terms of securing water for future use. So I commend the submission that was prepared by the officers and fully support.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Hopper, do you wish to add anything? Is there any further comment speaking for or against this report? No? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. We move on to DOD 516, Council Action Plan and Advocacy Program. Councillor Kavanagh wishes to move that. As read, recommendations as in the report?
Yeah, sorry, moved recommendation on page 217.
Yeah. Is there a seconder? Yep. Councillor Rob Thompson. Councillor Kavanagh, do you wish to speak to this?
Just briefly, look, I do think this, I do really enjoy these quarterly reports. I mentioned previously that they've improved out of sight in the time I've been on council, and really, I think they give a really good summary to residents as to, you know, the things that are on council's agenda and the things that we're working towards. And I think, you know, I actually think it's extremely impressive.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Thompson, do you wish to add anything further?
I didn't actually move it, it was council.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Lenka Thompson seconded. Councillor Lenka Thompson, do you wish to add something?
I'd like to add something then, thanks. Just to note that achieved and on target that we've got the affordable housing strategy, which I'm particularly excited about, and moving into the land trust model that's coming to our June council meeting. It's good to see that that's on target, and also just to note that the Oak Park redevelopment plan, it's in the planning permit stages, ready for the tendering to go. So that's on target for us, and also for the bike strategy, the upfield lighting along that path is also on target. And just to note as well that our street tree planting plan is behind target at the moment, but that's because the data that we're collecting is a lot slower than what we thought. So that's actually a good thing. We're collecting good data in order to feed into our street tree planting plan, and I know that our officers are working really hard behind it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Is there any further comment on this report? Speakers for or against? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Next, we've got DCS 2216, Assembly of Councillors record for the 1st of March 2016 to 31st of March 2016. Is there a mover for this report? Councillor Rob Thompson. Is there a seconder? Is there a seconder? Councillor Lenka Thompson. Councillor R. Thompson, do you wish to speak to this? Councillor Lenka Thompson, do you wish to speak to this? Are there any speakers to this item for or against or questions?
311.
Yes. Yep, certainly. So, as is the practice now, just one second, Councillor Yildiz, do you wish to speak to this, do you?
No, I just want to make a correction.
Okay, we'll take the correction first. What's the correction?
17th March, Glenroy Advisory Meeting, I actually did say that I was, that was the day before the National Day of Action
So you sent an
against
apology.
bullying, so I couldn't, we were launching something with the Minister, so I couldn't be available that
You
night.
provide an apology,
Yeah,
Councillor Yildiz? Okay, so
absolutely.
we'll check that and amend that with the apology. And the further question that was asked, and which asked as a matter of course, is that we now report on attendance records for councillors who have not attended 50% of required meetings without an apology, and I believe Councillor Teddy and Councillor Gillies are both on that in that table, and Council asks you to provide a response to why you were not able to attend and why you didn't provide an apology. So, Councillor Gillies, Councillor Teddy.
From last month.
Okay, but it's still a
Yeah.
procedure that we have to go through. So, Councillor Gillies, do you wish to say anything to that about why?
No, that's fine.
Do you wish to provide an explanation?
Well, I gave it last month too. So, I mean, I get here when I can. In fact, I should probably just at the start of every month say, I doubt that I can turn up. And then when I turn up, it's a bonus as opposed to something that I don't. But at this particular point in time, I'm working on building sites. When we have concrete pours, I'm on traffic management. I'm not able to use a phone if I'm on a road. And if it's, and sometimes they will go till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And that's just the way my life is at this particular point in time.
Thank you, Councillor Gillies. Councillor Teddy, can you please provide an explanation as to why you missed more than 50% and without an apology as well?
I complied with the Local Government Act.
Is there any further debate on this item? Councillor Lincoln-Thompson.
I think I'd just like to sort of speak about, sort of talk to this part of the agenda, because it feels as though it's sort of brushed over without any real consideration about what it's sort of trying to highlight or bring out, because you know, we all have other lives outside of council, and to provide an apology for a meeting only takes a matter of seconds and can be provided over, like, if you know that there's going to be a pour, or if you know that you're going to be late, like it's...
In fairness, I'm
And-
not.
Oh, no, there's no response.
But
Councillor Thompson,
like in terms,
reply,
we've
Councillor
got,
Gillies.
Well, no,
we've
I'm
got
being
meetings
questioned.
No,
absent
Councillor
from
Thompson is speaking to this item.
INDs and advisory groups, and like the Glenroy Advisory Group and planning briefings. Like I think, yeah, it just seems as though it's the explanation given about not providing an apology for those particular responsibilities that councillors have sort of put their name forward to has been brushed over a bit. So I just feel a bit uncomfortable about how it's...
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gillies, do you wish to provide
Yeah,
a reply?
I would like to respond because Councillor Teddy's actually right. We comply with the Local Government Act. And this was actually put forward by certain councillors. And the reality is that if you are able to go to information discussion sessions, that is okay. They are not mandatory meetings, okay? They are not mandatory meetings. And, you know, we all, in the best of intention, think that we can attend all of these things. But, I mean, look at even the last month. It's just been meeting after meeting. And my job has changed since I first commenced on council. I actually resent getting up and having to actually explain myself. I have tried to explain it before, but these are conditions that have been set by and pushed forward by certain councillors in this council. And as far as I'm concerned, I comply with the Local Government Act. I make sure that, you know, I actually bring, and you'll notice from my general business side, so I have a ward meeting every month. I'm actually representing my residents to the best of my abilities. And if I see something in an information discussion session that I think I'm actually really going to learn something different from, I try as best as I can to get there. But I can't always do that, and I'm not in a position to do that. I am a casual employee as it stands, so I am not told, even sometimes until the night before, what, you know, that I'm even working the next day. And when I get there, it could be not until 5 o'clock when they say, oh, look, can you just stay on? Or they'll just keep saying, can you stay on, can you stay on, can you stay on? So I'm sorry if, you know, the councillors around here are offended by that and think that we just glide over that. But the reality is every person around this table has a different work experience and have different abilities in terms of being in front of a computer or on a phone. There have been times, and it's probably one in the last 2 months, where I've been contacted by an officer and I've actually been able to answer the phone because I was on my lunch break. But sometimes I don't even get a lunch break and I get paid double time, so there you go.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you.
Councillor Bolton, wish to just add something?
Yeah, I would like to say something. I think the reason why Councillor Thompson has picked up that we seem to glide over this item is because I actually think we should never have voted to force people to apologise for not attending what essentially are behind closed doors meetings, which is what information discussion meetings are. I mean, I actually moved a motion a couple of years ago that the meeting should be open to the public to observe. Anyway, I failed to get a seconder for that one. But I really do think, apologies should be given for compulsory meetings, for mandatory meetings, but we shouldn't be forcing people through a process, and especially in the case of Councillor Gillies, where it's the same reason each month, where, you know, it's to do with work and casual work. And council benefits from having a range of councillors with a range of work experiences. And we do have to be able to, in council, accommodate people as councillors who are casual workers and so forth. So, but I just think this is ridiculous process, and I tried to amend it out of the code of conduct when we actually voted on it, because I could see exactly this problem was going to happen. I mean, there should be absolutely apologies for mandatory meetings and committees that you know, people are on, but like, it's just the information discussion meetings, like, they're not in the public eye, and so I actually personally opposed to forcing people through this. But anyway, I know the policy is there, and I object to it, but I think we should amend it at some point.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Kavanagh?
Look, I think that the point needs to be made. It's not about people not attending the meetings, although of course we would like attendance meetings. It's simply about sending an apology, even an apology the day before. Councillor Yildiz is often interstate, but he always sends an apology. You know, and that's absolutely, and I've never heard one person criticise Councillor Yildiz for his attendance at the lack of it, because if he's interstate or he's overseas or whatever it happens to be, but it's just good manners, I think. And particularly for our officers, they prepare the agenda, they prepare the things that are going on that night to inform us, to make sure that we're briefed on certain things. It's not clandestine, by the way. It's, you know, yes, it is behind closed doors, but, you know, we keep on getting this that there's not a decision-making body. We're aware of that, you know. That wasn't mentioned tonight, but that's just good manners, you know. Just send an apology and that's it. It's you know, I don't think it's too much to ask.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh.
I just want to reiterate one thing. If I am doing traffic management and I am on a public road and I touch my phone, I can be sacked, Councillor Kavanagh, on the spot.
Okay, just take one more response and then I'm going to move on. We're going to put this to the vote now.
I agree when you get to work, that would be the case. But what about before you, as you make your way out in the morning with the intention that I might not be there tonight, an email to councillors on a one-line email, I'm going to work, I may not make it tonight. That's all I'm asking.
But I don't know.
Okay, I would think we'll close it. I think we're talking about sort of some standards of practice here, just in concluding this. Take your point, Councillor Thompson, and perhaps it either needs to be strengthened in terms of what the repercussions are if for the failure to provide an explanation, or as Councillor Bolton says, she's not happy with it. But this is in the hands of councillors. Councillors voted for this in the majority for this amendment. It came before council and the majority of councillors voted for this. So this is why we have this procedure. And in terms of thinking about how do we ensure this council operates, you know, to its maximum capacity and most efficiently, it is about valuing time of us and of the officers. And if there's a way we can strengthen the process whereby apologies that we might not be sure about can be tabled, and maybe it's sometimes they're attentive apologies saying, if I don't turn up, I'm an apology because for these reasons, it will help the smooth running of council, and I think that's what's being asked for. So on that note, I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour of the Assembly of Council's record? All those against? I declare that carried. We're now moving to DCS 2316, Financial Management Report for the period ending 31st of March 2016. Is there a move for this report? Councillor Rob Thompson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hopper. Councillor Thompson, do you wish to speak to this?
I thank the Director for the report once again. I thank him for the notes that he's attached to it. In particular, I point out that our CapEx, our carry forward, is likely to be $5.9 million, which is considerably less than previous years. Of that, made up of a number of items on page 314, which you can read through, and all of them with good reasons. Well done, team.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Hopper, do you wish to add anything? Okay. Are there any further comments, questions or debate on this item? No? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. We next have DCS 2416, proposed sale of land at 43 Turner Street and 235 Sussex. Councillor Kavanagh, is there a
recommendation on page 327?
Right. Is there a seconder? Councillor Rob Thompson. Councillor Kavanagh, do you wish to speak to
I
this?
guess these are the other two pieces of land that will eventually, when they're be moving to Pascoe Vale Community Centre, the Sussex Naval House and the Maternal and Child Health Centre have a multi-use facility at that point. So this is the land sale.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, do you wish to add anything? Are there any further comments or debate on this item? No. In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Next have DCI 1816 O'Hay Street. We've done that. Sorry, apologies. DCI 1916 proposed 2-hour parking restrictions in Saxon Street. Councillor Rob Thompson.
Move the recommendation on 358.
Thank you. Councillor Yildiz is seconding it. Councillor Thompson, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Yildiz, do you wish to speak to it? Are there any further questions or comments or debate? No? In that case, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. We now move on to notices of motion. We're going to notice of motion 2316, Refugee Advocacy. Councillor Bolton, I believe this is your notice of motion.
Yes, this one is mine. Do you want me to read it out?
If
The
you'd like to.
council resolves to agree in principle to only support and/or contract companies, institutions, and organisations.
Can it just be taken as written?
Yeah, it can be taken as read.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there a
Just 'cause it is
seconder
quite
to
long.
this? Is there a seconder to this motion? It is a notice of motion, so it is in the agenda. Councillor Gillies. Councillor Bolton, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes. A number of councils around Australia have passed similar motions to this, and basically this is through procurement policies have decided not to support companies which trade with the detention or prop up the detention centre regime in Nauru and Manus Island. And basically there's basically a campaign has been set up. I've been focusing on other agenda items. Where have I got it? No business in abuse, which is basically a campaign which is documenting the complicity of a number of corporations such as Broad Spectrum, which was formerly called Transfield Services, and Wilson Security, and a number of other companies which are the major contractors that carry out the detention centre policies on Nauru and Manus Island. And basically it's this is a policy to basically, which is on the basis of 4 principles, has zero tolerance for child abuse in policy and practice. 2, respects people's fundamental rights to freedom from arbitrary and indefinite detention. 3, does not treat people in a cruel, inhumane or degrading manner. And 4, commits to transparency and independent monitoring to ensure these principles are upheld. And I think, Moreland's procurement policy already has a number of ethical standards and humanitarian criteria. This would be really strengthening that policy to ensure that companies, which now I understand council doesn't really have dealings with Transfield, the old Transfield, now called Broad Spectrum, but we have hired Wilson Security in the past, and I think if we can send a message that we will not hire companies which are propping up this system and carrying out cruelty, I think that will be important, and I think we should add our name to the list of councils that are doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Gillies, do you wish to add anything further? Okay. Are there any speakers against Councillor Thompson?
I just need to point out that some of these multinational corporations that we're speaking of, Transfield Services for one and Wilson's being another, are owned by large organisations that have far-reaching tentacles into all sorts of different businesses. Transfield is also in the infrastructure field. Wilson's is also in car parking. Many of these are businesses that we put out to tender throughout the course of the year, and obviously these are companies that would like to tender to works that we're putting out. To cut these off, despite their global footprint, may make it somewhat difficult for us in the future. It certainly make some of the existing contracts that we have, because I'm pretty sure we've got Wilson's on a couple of locations. We haven't got Wilson's on a couple of locations. But these will come up, and we would then need to do due diligence on pretty much every company as to who owns them, where they're from, and then go back to them and explain to them that they are unable to tender on them. And some of these tenders that we're looking at, there are only a finite number of companies. And yes, they are owned by multinationals that may own a small division that looks after something that's happening on Manus Island. So just make you aware of that and make it a little bit more difficult than just saying no to some of these organisations.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Hopper.
Oh, just to say that I think that's kind of the point, that if these organisations do apply for tenders that we put out, and we then have to go back to them and say, no, we're not going to accept your tender because you, as an organisation, participate in cruel and inhumane practices on Manus Island and Nauru, so no, you cannot tender with us. That's the point. Like, the point is to say to them, we do not accept your tender because we do not like the way that you operate your business.
Okay, Councillor Kavanagh.
I'm speaking against the motion. I actually am supportive of the principle behind such a motion, but can I reiterate the officer comment here? If council were to unilaterally stop using suppliers with whom it has a contract, there is a strong risk that council will be sued for breach of contract. I really think that swings me in that, although it's a well-intentioned motion, it could land to council in large financial troubles.
Councillor Hopper.
I know
what's your
I've already
question?
spoken, but I just wanted to make the point that the next paragraph does clarify that we don't currently have any contracts with these providers, and so that is not of concern in this particular.
Okay, thank you. That's a good clarification. Councillor Linga Thompson, I think was next.
Yep. I'd just like to speak in support of the motion, and also to note from the policy context that the officers have provided that, so point 2 of Councillor Bolton's motion is to review the procurement policy, and this is something that council considers every year. So actually putting this to the procurement policy for a review is the place where we can really push to see what we can and can't do. So I note that we did get verbal legal advice about this, but then also having a greater debate during the policy procurement policy review, I think is well worth exploring, and certainly commend what has previously been spoken by Councillor Bolton.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Are there Councillor Bolton?
Maybe Councillor Tapanos first.
Oh, Councillor Tapanos. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I do think that these discussions are best done at the review of the policy that we do. And our procurement policy has changed rapidly over the last couple of years for a whole bunch of social outcomes. Now, some of them are really strong positions held by council, others are not as strong or not as relevant to local government, but are broader issues. I don't have an issue with generally using procurement, say, in our divestment strategies, but I'm starting to wonder whether we are adding such a burden on the organisation as far as undertaking assessments of every tender that comes in to make sure that they comply with all of the social justice outcomes that we are seeking through our procurement policy. And I'm wondering whether that is something that's costing the organisation time and money and so forth, because I think, we've amended it so much, it's almost as if the policy is almost designed to achieve social outcomes as opposed to actually purchase things and contracts. So although I see that there is a need sometimes when there is one or two issues, I think we're just getting to the point where we are putting so many things in there, it's becoming a little bit unworkable. I don't want any situations where staff are saying, we can't purchase uniforms or something because of this and that and this and that. So I just think we need to be mindful of that view as well. And if we can have that information into the future about what would be the actual impacts of adopting these social clauses in procurement policy, that would and a financial element and resources from officers, I think that would help me accept these in the future more so. But just on this ad hoc basis that we're getting them coming up makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. I believe the CEO also wants to provide some clarification about Councillor Bolton.
And
Do you wish to go
also
first?
Councillor Gillies wanted to go, so I'll close the debate.
Okay, certainly. So we'll get maybe some clarification and go to Councillor Gillies. Yep.
So just to clarify, so the first motion is to agree in principle. So it's an in principle position. So that first motion is really about a public statement of its in principle support. So that doesn't carry the type of administrative work that is being talked about. The second point would be really about using the procurement policy to consider what we would have to do to implement, and that we would be detailing that a little bit further, so you could consider that. It would be something like, whenever we put a tender out, asking those 4 questions of every tenderer and then making that assessment. But for us to really do this, we would genuinely have to do that assessment for every tenderer. So all this, those statements are correct and true, but this resolution just asks us to consider that the more administrative process in the procurement policy work, and the in-principle support is really a statement of in-principle support, so that doesn't carry the same level of administrative work. So just to clarify.
Okay. Thank you to the CEO. We've got Councillor Gillies.
Just very quickly, I would assume that when we put a tender out that they have to meet certain requirements anyway. But, as Naomi Klein says and many other people, we are in a system where just about the last vestige of power we have, unfortunately, is buying power. And how we allocate our tenders is very, very important. And, if we can make social change by doing that and putting pressure onto companies, that's exactly what we should be doing. Because, if this government does sign and agree to implement the Trans-Pacific Partnership, even we may actually not be able to do that anymore. And that would be a great shame, because then we would have absolutely no power at all to try and make social change by pressuring the very sort of companies and corporations who make money out of really antisocial, bad and inhumane practices. There you go.
Thank you, Councillor Gillies. And Councillor Bolton, you wish to close the debate?
Yes, I think I did sort of discuss the motion with the council officers, so I think, some of the wording was modified so that the council wasn't legally liable in the event of sort of, cancelling a contract mid-contract and stuff like that. So I did modify the motion to take account of all of that. And, in reality, no company, regardless of procurement policies, should be, supporting, tolerating, practising child abuse, treating people in cruel, inhumane or degrading manner, although, mind you, quite a few companies in Australia treat their workers in that way, implement indefinite detention. So I think these are pretty clear and obvious abhorrent practices that we're talking about wanting to not, issue contracts to companies that follow these sorts of procedures. And I think the proper place for looking at the overall procurement policy is when the policy comes up to review, and it's just one extra step to try and close down this concentration camp system that Australian government is implementing.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. I'll now put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. It's just hit 11 o'clock. Do I have a motion to extend the meeting by half an hour? Councillor Hopper, is there a seconder? Councillor Bolton, all those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those against?
Teddy, put your hand up.
We have to do the leave of absence. 1, 2, 3.
We have to appoint an
Acting Mayor. Councillors, just before we finalise this debate, councillors, just before we do Councillors, Councillor Liz, just before we adjourn, so I'm getting a sense that people are very, very tired and perhaps want to adjourn the meeting. In terms of looking at the rest of the agenda, there is a motion around appointing an acting mayor as I take some leave, so Councillor might want to consider that. Otherwise, I won't be on leave.
Can I ask a question?
Special
Yes,
meeting
certainly.
next
Can we
week.
deal with that one item and then close the meeting? Or
Yes, it's just
Is that
11 o'clock.
something
We can do that.
Why rush such an important
Okay,
decision?
all right. So we'll.
Well, could I move that it be added to the agenda? I think it's not on the agenda at the moment.
Yeah, it's an urgent business.
Okay,
item.
so
I actually think we had a vote before that we should take.
okay, I'll put that vote.
I vote to hear that one
Can I
item.
move a procedural to hear that one?
It's not really a procedural motion.
It's a
Just
vote on
one
the
second. I'm just
table.
going to get some advice on the procedural item because we have to.
Motion on the table.
We've moved the procedure, one motion at a time. I think we've adjourned.
We can't close it. It's been extended. The time's been put.
Looks like you've got
Time is something. The meeting is closed.
It's 30 minutes blocks.
Ron, you've been
I've got a flight to catch at 6 a.m.
so no mayor for what, a month?
Yes.
I move that we have a special meeting to
Okay,
determine that item.
all right, I'm going to continue with the vote on the extension of time because that was put before this meeting. And it has to be done in 30-minute blocks because that's what the local law says or local meeting procedure says. There is a provision to adjourn a meeting to another time. A chair can call an adjournment of a meeting to another date and time. So won't go there yet, but I'm going to put the motion to extend the meeting by 30 minutes to the vote.
Can I ask a question just before you do?
Sure.
What would stop then at the end at the end of that item, even though that motion was successful, to then move that the meeting be closed?
There's no procedural motion to close a meeting. The chair can adjourn a meeting to another date, but the closure of meeting is just when you finish with the end of the meeting.
Even
general
if this
meeting.
was successful, you could deal with that item and then you could decide to close the
I
meeting.
could, if I
Okay.
wish to. Yes.
At your last acting duty.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll have to think about that. I'm going to put the procedural motion for the extension of time to the vote. All those in favour of extending the meeting by till 11:30. All those in favour? All those against? All right, I declare that carried. So we have an extension of time for 30 minutes. Okay, so we've now.
I move that council admits report DCS 2516, appointment of the acting mayor.
So Councillor Hopper, is there a seconder to this item? Councillor Lenka Thompson. Okay. So now we all those in favour of admitting it as urgent business? All those against? I declare that carried. It is now admitted as urgent business. And we just to note that we have changed the order of the agenda slightly. We're dealing with this matter now, and we're going to general business afterwards, just to clarify the change in agenda there. DCS 2516, appointment of acting mayor. Councillor Hopper.
I'd like to note, I'd like to move the report which notes that Mayor Councillor Samantha Ratnam will be taking leave from council duties for the period 5 p.m. 27th of May 2016 to 6th of July 2016. Leave from these duties will include 4 council meetings, 2 issues and discussion workshops, some confirmed and other proposed civic events and other day-to-day meetings as detailed in section 3 of the report. During this time, the Mayor has elected to not receive the mayoral allowance and that we appoint the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Alita Gillies, as acting Mayor for the period of the 27th of May 2016 to 6th of July 2016.
Okay. Is there a seconder to this item? Councillor Yildiz. Okay. Councillor Hopper, do you wish to speak to this item?
Oh, look, I think the item is fairly self-explanatory. Obviously, the Mayor is taking leave to pursue campaign duties with the issue of the writs of the federal election taking place this Friday and close of nominations taking place shortly after the term that she commences her leave. It is a natural matter, of course, that we would give that role to the Deputy Mayor, who has been democratically elected by her fellow councillors as the 2IC of Council, and that she would serve in that role during the Mayor's absence.
Can I put an
Okay.
amendment?
Councillor Yildiz, Councillor Yildiz, do you want to speak to the item? You can't propose an amendment because you've
I can't
seconded the
get on.
item.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to speak to the item?
Yeah, well, if you
I can
think...
second it.
No, I've already taken Councillor.
second it.
Sorry,
If
I'm
you-
taking Councillor Yildiz as
If you
seconding.
think about how things operate in other organisations, so if the principal goes on leave, the deputy principal takes over. If the chair of an organisation happens to be away or steps down, well, the acting chair takes over. So it would make complete sense that the hierarchy and the protocol. But my question is, I'd like to know who's going to take the deputy mayor. The deputy mayor position, like Rob Thompson. For instance.
Do we need
You would
one?
need someone.
We don't
I
need
think,
it.
Can I just have one speaker at a time, please? Councillor Yildiz has the floor.
Because I think
Councillor
you need to have a
Tuckles.
deputy mayor, because if Councillor Gillies this motion was carried, then there would need to be a deputy mayor, and I'd like to put forward Councillor Rob Thompson.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Yildiz. I don't have an amendment to that effect at this
Okay.
stage. You have made a suggestion, so we'll take that. We'll take that as a
Point of
suggestion.
order.
Councillor Tapanos,
The deputy mayor's enshrined elected ceremonial meeting
please.
is
speak
a,
up.
sorry,
Councillor Tapanos.
the deputy mayor is enshrined in the rules and elected ceremonial meeting. Councillor Gillies, if successful in this motion, does not relinquish the position of deputy mayor, so there's no vacancy in my view. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Tapanos, for that clarification. Can I please have one councillor speaking at a time and please observe the formal process? I know it's getting late. Is there anyone? So we've got a motion, we've got a mover and a seconder. We've had the mover and seconder speak to the item. Is there a speaker against this item? You speaking against it, Councillor Tapanos?
I've got some questions.
Okay, okay, I'll allow you to ask some questions and then we'll take the speakers against. Sure.
Thank you, councillors. So on the 9th of May, both Houses of Parliament were dissolved. On the 16th of May, election writs were issued. On the 23rd of May, there will be the close of the electoral roll. Nominations closed on the 9th of June, and then subsequently there is the election on the 2nd of July. I'm not sure, and if I can have some clarification as to why the dates of 27th of May was chosen. Is that the date that you will be starting your campaign as the Greens candidate for Wills, or has your campaign already started? So that's one question. And the second question, I guess, is to Councillor Gillies, just see whether she can commit to the time required to fill in the vacancies of the mayor.
Okay, so I might respond to that first. In terms of the date chosen, there are a number of reasons for choosing that date. As you know, I take my council responsibilities very, very seriously, and I love serving the people of Moreland and want to continue to do so. However, I've decided that it is good to have a separation given the campaign that's coming up. So it's for a number of reasons that I've chosen that date. And one of those reasons also is that I've got a couple of matters of continuing business that I need to finish up, including a meeting that I'm required for quorum. It is a substantive issue that we've been working on for 3.5 years, and we're about to reach conclusion. I'm the only councillor on that committee. Without me, the meeting cannot progress. We've had legal advice that has brought this meeting to bear. It has to happen now. We've given notice for it. I want to complete that matter because it has a trust organisation riding on it and hundreds of thousands of dollars that need to be transferred to another organisation. And I take that matter very, very seriously, and I want to be able to complete those duties and ensure that I attend that meeting and sign those letters to be able to wind up the trust. So it's a long-term project, which I'm very, very committed to, and there's no way procedurally that we can move around it. That's one of the reasons amongst many, but it's a really significant reason in terms of completing that work. Councillor Gillies.
Does that mean your campaign's not going to start until the 28th?
Councillor Tapanos, I believe it's a redundant question. I'm not sure the validity of the question. The campaign, I don't become officially a candidate with the AEC until the week of the 2nd of June. Councillor Tapanos, you've asked your question. I'm going to ask Councillor Gillies to provide a response to the second part of the question.
Well, as I have stated earlier today when I was getting grilled, I'm actually a casual employee, so probably out of most people, it would be easier for me to actually attend every day at council.
Yep, thank you. Is there a speaker against the motion? I thought Councillor Lenker-Thompson had a hand up as well before. Did you want to speak to it?
It was more of a question around previously what we were talking about with Councillor Gillies, the time commitment, considered to, I guess, the mayoral duties, and, there is the INDs that are on the agenda, like if the deputy mayor will be stepping into that role as a mayor, who's there to facilitate those meetings, or are there other things that are sort of inhibiting her from delivering on the mayoral duties?
Okay, Councillor Gillies, do you wish to respond?
I think I kind of answered that though, Councillor Thompson. Yeah. If I'm elected to stand into the role of the mayoralty, acting mayor, I will be working here. I won't be working elsewhere, and I can do that because I'm a casual employee. So it's not like I have to ask for a leave of absence. So.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gillies. Councillor Kavanagh, you had a couple of questions or comments?
Just one question, Councillor
Councillor, just one second. I've just got to, it's a bit disruptive. I just want to wait till this question.
First of all, Councillor Wakeler-Thompson's answered the first.
Councillor Tapanos, please.
Asked the first of my questions. I just have one question. Have you at this point signed the Code of Conduct?
Actually, no, I haven't, but we do have an upcoming meeting about the Code of Conduct, I believe.
Just to clarify, it's to update the Council Code of Conduct, but that is not about the signing. We update the Code of Conduct as a matter of course, but it's a separate question about signing it. There is an unsigned Code of Conduct at the moment.
At this point in time, no, I haven't. But that being said, I haven't got the document. So, you know, at the moment, I haven't got it on me. I wouldn't even know where it was, to be honest with you.
Okay, just one second. Councillor Kavanagh, do you have a further question?
So if it was placed before you, you'd be willing to sign the document before 5 p.m. on the 27th of May? In other words, on the time that you would take over as acting mayor. I just want to clarify.
At the time when I didn't sign it, in fairness, Councillor Kavanagh, it was prior to me going to France. It was that month before. I was unhappy with the changes to the Code of Conduct because I felt that there would be significant legal ramifications and that could be used for political purposes. I have actually, and then of course I got back from France and I didn't follow it up because I forgot about it. I was then approached by Lydia, our governance officer, but then it took me a while to actually seek the legal advice that I wanted because, you know, you do have to pay for that, Councillor Kavanagh. And so I have done that. There are still some, I'm not happy with all of it, but I figure that the things that I'm not happy with, I'm hoping won't be used the way I believe they will be. But as everyone else has signed it, I really can't not sign it at this point in time.
Okay. Are there any further speakers for this item or against? Have there been some questions of clarification being asked? Councillor Tapanos, yes?
Against in part, I guess. Okay. And I do so right because I think it's important that I put, I guess, my displeasure as a councillor on record in regards to the period of leave not being earlier. And I understand these are matters purely for the mayor and her personal circumstances, but there are no real guidelines that we have in the council. We are guided by some MAV guidelines. And of course, MAV guidelines understand that there is potentially or perceived an issue about an elected official being also in positions where they are running for another elected position and use of resources and numerous policies that do exist. And I do believe that that policy says to close the nominations, which is what the mayor is following. And of course it says to close the nominations because we don't know who the candidates are until after the close of nominations. It recognises that there could be perceived conflicts, but we don't know. There might be other independent candidates. And of course the policy would say to close the nominations. But in this case, we know. We know because it's been announced, because the election campaign is well underway. So the same principle, I think, ought to apply. If a campaign is underway and the election's been called and the writs have been issued, I think that ought to be a timeline that the mayor consider, because that's when the election has really begun. So if you think that it's a conflict or a perceived conflict to be in the two positions, the day before the election or the week before the election or after your nominations, probably the same thing applies even the day after the writs are issued, because we know the election is on and you've already declared, the mayor's already declared that she's a candidate. So I think that ought to be taken into consideration. And I'm looking at precedents and I'm seeing that the Mayor of Manningham has resigned, not taken leave of absence, but resigned. And the Mayor of Monash has resigned. And numerous other councillors across the state of Victoria have resigned. And I pose the question, why have they resigned as opposed to taking leave of absence? And I start kind of thinking about maybe the bigger political parties might be privy to better legal advice than some of the smaller political parties. So I think that some more consideration really needs to be given by this issue, particularly because there are constitutional requirements as well that candidates need to abide by, such as not being in an office of profit under the Crown. I'm not sure what that really means, But I know that school teachers can't run for public office after the writs. I know that other employees of state and federal institutions are in the same category. And I probably ask that maybe some consideration or advice be obtained, because I hate to have a situation where, like we did last time, the Labor Party didn't win Wills, we had to go to a by-election again. So just for the good of the electors of Wills in avoiding by-elections, maybe those things ought to be considered.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Are there any further speakers to this item? Propose an amendment, certainly.
To add to the second point, on the proviso that Councillor Gilly signs the Councillor Code of Conduct prior to 5 p.m. May 27, 2016.
Okay. Is there a seconder to that amendment?
It's acceptable to the mover.
I think we've still got a second. Yes. So, Councillor Lenker-Thompson, is that amenable to the mover and seconder? So that was just Councillor Hopper and Yield is moved and seconded. Are you in agreeing with the amendment? Okay. So that is now part of the substantive item. Are there any further speakers for or against the amendment? Yes, sure. And I'd like to flag that I'm going to move them separately, the different items separately, because they're distinct things.
If I had known that, I would have moved a different first item.
Okay, I'm going. Do you wish to close the debate, Councillor Hopper?
Sure. So, had I known that the items were going to be moved separately anyway, I would have moved that the leave commence on the day that the writs are issued, which is the 15th of May, because I concur with Councillor Tapanos that I too have concerns that once the election begins proper, and that is what the issue of writs means, it means that the campaign has begun, it means that people are campaigning, then that is ideally when the Mayor should be taking leave. And I do commend people like the former Mayor of Manningham and the former Mayor of Monash for doing what I believe is the right thing, and by resigning to focus purely on their campaigns. I think that was the right thing by their councils and by the constituents that they represent. And nobody is in any doubt whatsoever that the Mayor will be nominating as the candidate. That's been announced. Her campaign office is open. She's advertising for staff to manage her schedule. She's out there door knocking every weekend. So the campaign is well underway. So to claim that you're not a candidate just because you haven't signed a form, I think is a technicality. And I do wish that I had known in advance that we were going to be moving these two items separately. I didn't change the date because I wanted to get through a smooth motion with everyone in agreement that the Deputy Mayor is the right person to step into this role at this time. But I regret that I did not put the 15th of May because I do believe that she should stand down at the issue of the writs.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hopper. I'll now put the first item to the vote. So it's point number 1. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. I'm now going to put point number 2. Point number 2 is appointing Councillor Lita Gillies to be acting Mayor for the period 27th of May to 6th of July on the proviso that she signs the Councillor Code of Conduct prior to that date. Have we got that wording up on the screen?
I had a technical glitch and it hasn't appeared.
Okay. Yep, we'll just type it in.
See, even the computer doesn't want me to sign.
Oh dear.
And I think it should be 5 p.m. 27th of May. Lydia?
The acting Mayor. The acting Mayor,
Yeah, sorry, the second.
Okay, I'm going to put that point 2 to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried.
I'm going to get my vote this year.
Okay, councillors. We now move to general business item.
I'd like to move to the meeting.
No, we can't. There's no motion. 11:30 is the next time. Pardon me. Sorry. Apologies. remiss of me. I could finish notice of motion.
Unless the meeting's
So
adjourned.
no, it's not adjourned. We've got to 11:30 before the next adjournment is going to be called. So we've got notice of motion 2416, privatisation of disability services.
So this is basically a motion to write to the state government, I won't read it through, to oppose contracting out of the state's disability services, but also to request information about what services will be affected in Moreland.
Okay, is there a seconder to this item? Councillor Gillies. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Bolton?
I will just be very brief. I think it is really important that council puts itself on the record as opposing the sell-off of disability services. I think, just talking to people who, you access disability services through the ISP, I think it stands for Individual Support Package, which are also contracted out disability services. It is a nightmare, and the difference between the standard of those services and the standard of council services through the home and community care are very, very different. With the council services, council employees having to follow certain protocols, and some of these privatised disability services want a situation where they can just park someone in a wheelchair in a corner and not have to provide care, and some of them are actually refusing care to people with intellectual disabilities. And so I think it is really, really important that we take a strong position against further contracting out and privatisation of these really important services. I won't go, there's more I could say, but I know it's late and people want the meeting to end soon.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Gillies, do you wish to add anything to this?
No, that was succinct and
Thank you.
to the point.
Are there any questions or comments regarding this item? Any further debate on this item? Oh, Councillor Tapanos? Okay, yep. I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. We have general business items next, and I believe we had Councillor Gillies sent us her general business items first.
Yes, we did.
Can I clarify whether we have any confidential items?
We have one confidential
Can I
item.
move that we close the meeting in order to move to confidential business?
Okay, yes, so moved by Councillor Hopper, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favour of closing the meeting to the public? All those against? I declare that carried. I declare the council meeting closed to the public. Thank you, Public Gallery, for staying with us.
Confidential business done instead of general business.
Thank you. Sue, can you please close that door for us? Thanks. Thank you so much. Okay, we have.
Did you just give them leaflets? I love it.
Okay, we are in the confidential section of the meeting with DSD 1216 aged care reform. Do I have a mover for this report? Yeah, Councillor Gillies. Is there a seconder? Councillor Yildiz. Councillor Gillies, do you wish to speak to it?
No, not at this stage.
Councillor Yildiz?
Yeah, we're.
Is there any further comment or debate on this item? No? Okay.
All those in favour?
All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Okay, can I please have a motion to open the council meeting to the public?
I want to seek leave to move a urgent motion in regards to the mayor's leave.
I'll just go and run and get Nick.
Sorry.
2 minutes.
Okay.
No, I'm not sure procedurally what you're proposing.
Okay,
I'm
well,
going to, can I please have a
well,
motion to open the
explain.
council? Well, no, I'm not sure procedurally what provision you're using to include an urgent business. There's no urgent business and
But
no,
I'm seeking leave of council to do so.
You're not receiving it, so
no,
sit down.
leave is
sir.
not provided. Could I have a motion
that
to
to the
open, could I have a motion to open the council meeting to the public?
No.
You can
Can you
have a
please,
motion for
councillors,
urgent
councillors, we are in formal meeting. Councillor Tapanos, I'd like you to provide me with the section of the meeting procedure law that you're referring to.
I'm referring to the Local Government Act, section 66B.
No, I'm asking
1D.
Councillor Tapanos, I'm asking you to refer to the section of the meeting procedure law that you're referring to in terms of seeking leave for an urgent item. And until you do so, I'm going to proceed with the order of business. Can I please have a motion to open the
I'm
council
sure.
meeting to the public?
Okay, we'll do it in public then.
I'll move.
Yep, Councillor Yildiz. I'm sure. Is there a seconder to open the meeting to the public?
Put your hand up, will you?
Councillor Hopper, I think, with there. All those in favour of opening the meeting to the public? All those against? I declare that carried. We have a general business item from Councillor Gillies first. You were the first to send your general business items, I believe. So do you want to move your first general business item?
Yes. I'm just going to be very, very quick because I'm rehashing old ground. This is all of these are from my ward meetings, residents turning up and seeking answers. So literally, this is just about best pedestrian lights for Box Forest Road. Look, in 2012, my first year at council, we went down to Ilham College and the Federation Village, which is the retirement village, and basically they were talking about there's bus stops on both sides of the road. It's a very busy road. There's nowhere to cross. And Narina was actually the director at the time.
I think you just need to outline the motion and get a seconder and then speak to it.
Okay.
Councillor Gillies.
I'll second it.
So you read out the motion? It's
The
taken as
motion
read?
is that council investigate or seek the assistance of Vic Roads, whatever, to have traffic lights installed on Box Forest Road.
Okay.
You need to add something about where on Box Forest Road.
Just everywhere.
Look, can I Can I tell you? It'll either be outside.
Councillor Gillies, we just need to have a motion.
Alright,
Are you
yeah,
going
I'll
ahead with the
second it,
motion?
I'll second it, that's
Okay,
right.
yep. So do you want us to speak to it, Councillor Gillies?
Look, I've really just said it all. I think some investigation may have taken place, but then Narina left us, and I don't know where that went, what happened with that. And residents have said that engineers turned up and did levels or something, but they don't know whether that was to do with the train line or not. So I just think let's get this done. It's a really dangerous road, and there are kids getting over it to catch buses and older people.
Councillors, I note that it's 11:30. Is there anyone willing to move a motion to extend the meeting by half an hour?
Me.
Councillor Tapanos, is there a second? Councillor Hopper, all those in favour? 4. All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I declare that lost. The meeting is adjourned. Meeting's closed.
Shutting down the bait.
Democracy.
Yeah, I found it.
It's
The Night
section
Natural
15,
Justice.
Yeah.
87,
Section
I believe, is what
36.
you're looking for, Councillor Tapanos. In the local law, section 15, business not listed on the agenda, point 87.
Yeah, refer to section 36.
It does.
Which says by resolution of council, it will be